We have in today a Super Famicom Junior. This is the Japanese version of the SNES, and it's also the smaller variant. It's fully working, and it's been purchased from another company already with a load of mods on, RGB and audio mods. The customers complained of a slight difference in audio that we can't quite pinpoint, but it definitely does sound different. So this is the customer's console that's been modded. This is just a stock one I've got lying around. It's not the same exact model, but the chips are basically the same for the audio inside. And in order to hear the difference, I first started with just the test cart and then going to the burn-in test, which is here, and running a sound test. I've done this for the customer's console and then our console, and I can't really hear the difference when you listen on here one after the other. So what I've ended up doing is recording it through the computer so we can capture each console and then compare the exact waves on a computer to actually inspect and see if there's any difference, as well as being able to just jump to a certain spot nice and easy, click play, and listen to, say, one console, and then jump into our stock console and playing this. And as you can see, they pretty much sound identical, and it's really hard to tell the difference, but I have spotted a difference. If we zoom in at the start, for example, on these pulses, so these pulses, and you can't really see much difference. You have to look really close. This is a stock console, and this is the modded console, so very similar. But notice here, look at the center line of the audio. It's not actually centered. And then if we realize that, and we go over to, say, here, this is really obvious now. This section here of noise clearly has a decay going down, which is usually a capacitor related issue. And if we look at the stock console, you can see here's the exact same area, perfectly flat. And if we take a look at the spectrogram instead of the wave plot, you can see the modded console has a lot more harmonic resonance going down and decaying. So this is the frequency of the pulse, but then there's tons of decay going down. There shouldn't be here. You can see a stock console doesn't have that decay. And this is one area we can actually hear the difference. So if I press play and listen to the end of the pulses, now compare that with the modded one, and you hear that kind of resonance. That's what you're hearing, these harsh resonance. So it's really difficult to pick up, but the customer's heard it, and now I can hear it on certain sections, and there's definitely a difference. And this is the particular console and mod in question. So it's by Retro Upgrades, and they sell a completely done console. But you'll notice it says the X-Mix audio chip's been replaced. And we can see it definitely has. It's literally missing on the board. So the difference is going to lie in the fact that this mod has now bypassed the stock audio, and the way it's generating it is not exactly the same as an original console. And this is the new audio board that looks like it's just basically lifted off the old S-Mix chip and replaced it with that. So I think the only solution for the customer is we'll leave this in place. We'll just remove all of the wires and put an S-Mix down here and then re-record the audio. That's the old amp off and a genuine S-Mix amp back on. And let's run the sound test again. And there is the stock console with perfectly centered audio. And the new capture you can see is now perfectly centered as well. If we go over to before we did the mod, you can see this is what it looked like with this big taper running down. Listening to the start, it's got rid of that horrible distortion, which sounded like this. So the culprit was this audio board here, which is obviously not a standard SNES one, and it does affect the sound. It sounds quite different. So you can't beat just the original audio board. The customer should be happy with this now, and it's got genuine Nintendo sound. And the PS4 console didn't actually make it on a vid. It wasn't a fan connector. It's the power supply was blown. And after that, we get to blue light. The problem is the CPU gets super hot super fast. Also, the fact we don't get the fan spin indicates the south bridge is probably fried as well. So I'm going to suspect, I think the customer mentioned he was fitting a fan that wasn't the same. He may have then shorted over the rails of the CPU and south bridge, and it looks like it's pretty much brick this.